Hello, welcome to We Love the State. This is the State Sanctioned Podcast. We're extremely super excited today. We've got a whole fuckload of guests today. You taking my picture, bro?
Video?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Here's a short one.
I'm also on video over here.
Continue. Here's a short one.
This is the multi-angle show.
We are at the, what are we calling this thing? Take Human Action Bash or whatever?
Take Human Action Weekend.
Take Human Action
Michigan
Weekend.
Take Human Action Weekend.
Yeah, there we go. Everybody's favorite mitten state. As far as I know, some consider it the only mitten state.
It's the only mitten state.
Right, yeah.
Only real mitten state.
Yeah. Those fuckers from Tennessee aren't a mitten state. I don't know why I singled out Tennessee.
I was thinking more like the warped fuckers from Wisconsin.
Yeah,
like,
fuck people from Wisconsin.
That mitten got cold.
Unless you're
Those
listening.
pussies didn't even try to take the Upper Peninsula.
As far as I'm concerned, those cheeseheads can fuck off.
As men.
So,
no fucking way.
just to let you know, whenever I said fuck people from Wisconsin, I wasn't talking about anybody from Wisconsin listening to this. I was talking about different people from Wisconsin.
As we alienate everybody from non-Michigan.
You know what's amazing about people from Wisconsin?
What? They can't drive?
They can drink a lot.
Yeah,
I
they
bet.
can.
You know, it's because
They
every
go
waking
hard.
every waking moment of their life, they're like, I fucking live in Wisconsin.
They drink more per capita than anyone else in the United States.
Even Alaska?
Their baseball team is the fucking Brewers, dude.
Yeah, exactly. And it's globally, I think it's only like Norwegian countries that come close.
Wow.
To yeah.
They drink more than Alaska.
Yeah.
They stole Stroh's from us.
Well, Wisconsin
You know that, right?
and
They what?
Minnesota are
They
all
stole Stroh's
Scandinavian.
brewery from us.
Yes.
Yes, I did know that.
My dad used to work there.
Yeah?
Fuck you, Wisconsin.
Yeah, fuck you, Wisconsin. Unless you listen to the show, then you're
Stroh's from Detroit.
Stroh's from Milwaukee now. It's Coors Stroh's. What can I say?
Yeah, you're not wrong. I just know old Kid Rock songs talking about Stroh's.
So real quick, let's go around the room. Let's everybody introduce yourself. Let's start with Andrew, the real legitimate chair of the Libertarian Party of Michigan. Introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Andrew Chadderdon. I'm an organizer for the Micaucs of Michigan. So, yeah, hello.
Connor, you're next.
Hey guys. I am your Libertarian National Committee Region 3 alternate. And I created the Mises Caucus of Michigan, working hard to build it up for the last 5 years. And it's been a trip. And happy to be here.
So you could say that none of us would be here without you.
You're like the father. The
Hey, Daddy.
I mean, yeah, but I love you guys.
I'm going to come to you on the day of your daughter's wedding and ask
You
for a
stay the
favor.
fuck away from me.
I guess I'm next.
Yep.
Jakob Kelts, treasurer for Lapeer County Libertarian Party, and I'm running for Congress currently for District 9 here in Michigan.
Hell yeah.
return guest.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Jake.
Woo woo.
You have to pass the microphone now.
I can do that.
All right. Coming at you from the corner of the Michigan Casting Couch, this is Dan Ziemba. I was your top vote getter for Wayne County Prosecutor in 2020, current Secretary of the Libertarian Party of Michigan. And happy to be here as a guest on this podcast. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here, so we're going to find out.
Well, since he's on a casting couch, we're obviously going to fuck him.
What else do you do with somebody on a casting couch?
I am Andy Coons. I'm your host. I am very happy to be here at this weekend Mises Caucus event. Having a ton of fun. I'm super fucking drunk. So whatever I say after this, just remember that. Andy's super fucking drunk. Yeah.
Not to mention, we just had some amazing ribs and chicken, and so if anybody passes out, it's either a food coma or they're wasted. So pick your poison. If anybody, falls
I
over.
can feel my arteries clogging.
So
You guys
Connor
are rookies,
might be the
that's all I'm
first.
going to say. Let's bust out the vodka. I'll show you how to drink it like a Russian.
So to start the conversation, let's jump into like recent news. Bridge was attempted at least to be blown up in Russia.
He blew it up.
The bridge that went to Crimea, the peninsula.
Can you drive across that bridge?
Not
Not anymore.
Yeah.
About half as well as you used to be able to.
Yeah, it's down to just one lane each way.
So what is everybody's thoughts? Is this a U.S. sanctioned, or is this just some random fuck who got drunk and hit a truck with bombs?
So I wouldn't be surprised one bit if it was a CIA operation.
See,
So
I
what-
would agree. It's an inside job.
What-
but
so-
with the sanctions on the farmers, it's definitely not like somebody who could stack up some fertilizer into a truck.
So well, what makes you think that, Connor?
I mean, we know that the CIA has been active in Eastern Europe for a very long time, and following the Euromaidan in what was that, 2014?
Sure.
The
Sure,
CIA,
yeah, our first involvement in Ukraine.
CIA and American interests have taken a huge stranglehold in Ukraine. And obviously we know about Burisma, natural gas and energy, and the connection to the Biden administration and Hunter Biden getting like $50,000 $50,000 a month from
And don't
Burisma.
forget 10% for the big guy.
And the CIA operations, I mean, did you watch Ukraine on Fire? Rogers, some of the documentaries about the Euromaidan?
The one with Sean Penn?
No.
I don't watch documentaries unless
no.
Sean Penn
No,
is in them.
they had on the ground footage of the Euromaidan. And the
Well, real
right
quick, what's
sector
the Euromaidan?
The Euromaidan it started as a protest because there was a popular movement for the people of Ukraine to join the EU. And they alleged that the government at the time was firmly under the thumb of the Russians. The president was loyal to Russian interests.
So this is
And
like
he
2013, 2014.
Yes, 2013, 2014. And he resisted all efforts to join the EU. And of course, people supported the EU because that opened up many more trade opportunities for them. The lowering of barriers and access to some of the capital that was there. So this was popular. The people wanted to do this. So there was a referendum on it, and the people voted in favor of it, but the government overturned it. They did not want to join the EU. So there's a mass protest. Is people
When you say protest, we all remember the footage of protesters beating riot police with fire hoses.
I'm getting to that. Is
Patience, Dan.
so
I was to say weak sauce. Just
So
hoses?
it was a sit-in. People were setting up tents, camping I forget. I don't know the details that well.
This is in Kiev.
Kiev.
Yes.
Kiev.
Kiev.
Oh my God.
I've heard so many different versions of that one. Is
don't-
it Kiev or is it Kiev?
It's
Frankly,
Kiev.
I don't care.
Guys,
Depends on whose
They
side
can
you're
call
on.
them. Yeah.
guys,
Yeah, who gives
guys,
a shit, really?
K-Town.
It's Kiev.
That's very
So-
Jewish of you.
So there's this popular movement, and so there's always
Shalom,
been
motherfucker. It's Kiev.
there has always been a very strong right-wing faction in Ukraine. Going back to the Russian Revolution, and obviously they survived the people who survived the Holodomor, they always held hate for the Russians.
This is kind of where the Azov Battalion
Yes.
grew from.
Yes, and they're very much nationalist, and of course there's very strong ethnic differences as well, and language. So there's been a lot of resentment for that a long time. So they took advantage of the opportunity, and these right-wing militant groups were going on all kinds of killing sprees. They were shooting at protesters of the Euromaidan
This is
to
in
instigate people.
2014.
Yes, to instigate people to overthrow the government, and of course there was so much confusion, and people didn't trust what the government was saying. But the government insisted we never shot at protesters. But then in this documentary, Ukraine on Fire, they literally have video evidence of snipers going into and out of these hotels and going to the floors that these right-wing sector groups owned and rented out for the time period. And they were harassing and blocking any journalists. They were confiscating cameras. They were doing everything they can to keep people out.
I mean, obviously sniping them, right?
Yeah, and then they were shooting at their own people, but of course blaming it on the government. Now, I don't think we can actually know that was the case, because the government had every reason to shoot at protesters. They did.
They always do, man.
Yeah.
Kent, Ohio.
Yeah, exactly. So the allegation is that these right sector people have been connected to Western intelligence for a long time. They're, like, going back to the Cold War, the goal was to undermine the Russians in any way they could. And we are seeing the exact same strategies being implemented like the CIA did in Afghanistan.
So if anybody's watched Dave Smith on the recent episode of...
Part of the problem?
No, it wasn't. It was when he was on
Kennedy?
Joe Rogan.
Oh.
He did talk about kind of a little, he touched on the historical background of like what got us here. But I think what we're doing here is we're diving in a little bit deeper to what Dave touched on, which is, I think, very important because, again, context is everything. And so if you're talking about a war like this, you can't just say, it's black and white. Here's your good guy, here's your bad guy, and end of story, right? So we do need to look at the context of how did we get here, and this is the kind of stuff, like, especially that 2014, we talk about insurrection, we talk about, whether it's a coup, whatever it is, it was fueled by the U.S. intelligence state. We have proof. Victoria Nuland, right off the bat, we have her on tape talking about who she wants to be in the new government post the revolution. So this is a good context for why are we where we're at today. So we got a bridge that was blown up, which not so great. We have fuel lines that were blown up, which one of the things that I heard recently was Nord Stream 2 actually had multiple lines, and the explosions actually only killed one, and there was another one that was left that is still active. And so one
of the twins is still alive.
One of the honestly, actually, they're quadruplets. Right?
Holy shit!
Nord Stream 2 wasn't finished, right?
It was done. It was just never turned on, I think.
And they've both been shut down since the start.
Nord
of the
Stream
war, right?
1 and Nord Stream 2, we just had the explosions. Nobody's pointing fingers, of course, but it was the U.S.
You're not wrong, dude.
Everybody.
I'm running for
agree
Congress.
with
I'll
that
tell you
one.
that was fucking us.
Yeah. Jake, member of Congress.
But they found the Russian passport at the scene, dude.
Yeah. Some Russian passport at the bottom of the ocean.
No plane hit World Trade Center 7.
Yeah, never happened. Anyhow, so we do have a lot of pretext for war, and at this point now, Zelensky is trying to justify a nuclear first strike by the UN. Russia has annexed at least 3 areas in the Ukraine, if not 4, yeah. And so there is that concern of if the Ukraine attacks anyone in those areas, that could be a provocation to nuclear strike, which has been the threat. So what does everybody think about the potential for nuclear war at this point, now that we've escalated to this degree?
We're in Michigan. We'll be all right.
Well, here's what I worry about with us being in Michigan is that
The largest freshwater source in the United States and Canada.
okay, so
And our cherries are amazing. Mm-hmm. Who doesn't like to pop a
We
cherry?
also have incredible military-industrial complex capabilities here.
Well, okay. So here's what my big concern is with us living in Michigan, is if let's say that all the nukes are fired, a lot of those are going to hit the East Coast.
Of course.
Okay. And what about the fallout? That's all coming this way.
All those people are coming this way, bro.
No, not the East Coast fallout.
The West Coast fallout?
No, the missile fields fallout. So your missile fields in the U.S., they're all in Wyoming and Montana, western side of those states.
States we can live without.
But they're only a few
rectangular
states
for a
over.
reason.
The wind blows west to east. So that's the fallout that we're going to get. And unfortunately for us, when you strike a missile silo, you don't blow that nuke up 10 miles over the ground or 5 miles, whatever it is for an airburst. No, you drop it right into the dirt and then you detonate. So that throws up all kind of highly radioactive dirt. And that's going to rain down. That's more a problem for Minnesota and our aforementioned Wisconsin.
Which we don't care about.
What if they
They'll be in
detonate
some big
hundreds of
trouble.
miles over the surface, and it creates an EMP that knocks
So
out
basically,
the power?
verbatim, what Dan
Less
said is
fallout.
what I meant to say.
Less fallout for an EMP blast, but once it's a ground blast, you got a lot of fallout. Lake Michigan probably going to get poisoned. That means Lake Huron's poisoned.
It already is, bro. Thanks
That'll-
to Chicago and
That'll
Indiana.
be well,
More
it'll be-
poison.
It'll be worse than Chicago pooping in the lake for God knows how long.
So what is everybody's thoughts? I mean, is this an actual possibility or is this just hyperbolic?
Hyperbolic as fuck, bud.
Putin's a cornered animal.
Not,
And that's
to go
See,
to
that's
Canadian
what I'm
accent.
worried about. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, see that too. We a cornered animal.
Because
once
at
upon
a
strike.
certain point, you have to ask, like, what does he have to lose?
Not much. I mean, Russia's fucking huge. What has he got to lose?
But there is discussion about what is a tactical strike for nuclear weapons versus like the big bomb and it destroys everything. And it like when we talk about tactical strike nuclear weapons, we talk. I mean, that's kind of the Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
The idea of a first strike is to, of course, take out all their capability to launch nuclear weapons before they can even
To respond.
EMP.
Whether that requires nuclear weapons on our part, I don't know about that. But
Like I
I
said,
don't
they
know.
just got to
They have
launch a
bunker
nuke
busting
and
bombs that are
detonate it hundreds of
non-nuclear
miles
that
over the
can
surface
probably
of
take out,
Kansas.
a missile silo.
I mean, I got peeps in Kansas.
I got peeps in Kansas
But
too, but if
that's
they
not
launch
a
it and
game
detonate
you
it
wanna
over
fucking
Kansas, it
play.
will EMP the whole fucking country.
There are literally billions of lives at risk. With this
When
kind
do
of
you
game.
think that people will actually wake up and understand the threat that this is? Because I think at this point, it's as far as like Americans go, we're just. I mean, those who they're cheerleaders, right? They're just like, go,
It's-
go.
I think
Go,
I
Power
think the
Rangers.
world can see how badly Russia has lost in this
Well,
militarily, and so it's like, why continue to just embarrass them?
It's fun.
Why? Like, what does anyone actually gain from that?
I honestly, I think it's
the West doesn't.
I honestly, I think it's a lot of people want to say that they like a lot of people watch the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and I feel like on a deep level they want to be able to witness that like firsthand. I think on some
I
level
fucking
people
don't, would
want
hope
to
not.
see the
I
United
fucking
States.
don't.
I think people want to see the United
Well, I
States
mean-
nuke Russia.
There's a collective madness about this. How cavalier
Absolutely.
everyone is about the possibility of nuclear war, as if we didn't just fucking lock down over a fucking flu.
But I think that's the arrogance of the United States populace, right?
No, and
Because
it's the power of the propaganda machine.
Well,
we are
They,
invincible.
yeah. 2 years ago, everyone was
Yeah.
afraid. You had the lockdown. You had to be under their control. They will protect you. And now, we have the power to protect you against any enemy, foreign or domestic, and we will rain nuclear fire on anyone who questions us.
Well, let's
It's
be
insane.
realistic about it. We do have oceans protecting us from both directions from these people.
From
these old
invasion,
worlds.
yes.
We're lucky.
But not-
These
yeah,
old
but not from
worlds.
nuclear
Geographically,
bombs.
we're fucking
These
lucky.
are
And I think the much bigger threat, if I were to hazard a guess as to what might happen next, I think if Russia attacks the West, we'll see something like the Channel Tunnel blowing up the way the Nord Stream pipes did.
Yeah.
I don't think we see a nuclear strike, first of all. If we do, it'll probably be over Poland, I'm sorry to say, being of Polish heritage. But I think it's more
Fuck
likely...
you, Poland, is what he's trying to say.
No, fuck you,
No, Poland just
actually.
gets fucked over every time. Every time Poland gets fucked over.
Nostrovia is what I have to say.
Skål!
I ran out of beer.
In any case, with a strike on a bridge like the Kerch Bridge, you would expect probably a strike in kind by Russia.
No. What do you want?
Ukraine sent their hero over there to do that.
Either one of these.
It would be perfectly reasonable to expect that Russia might send, say, a submarine crew to take a rather large bomb and detonate it right over the channel and sever Britain from Europe or something to that effect. That would not surprise me at all.
But I mean, because I totally agree that we could see an escalation at a small scale, right? Tit for tat. But at some point, that escalation becomes dangerous, right?
Oh, the escalation is always dangerous.
So
Blowing up that bridge was dangerous, even though they only did a half measure to it, which, as a structural engineer, I'm surprised. Partially surprised, but perhaps not surprised that maybe they didn't think they needed to attack the main span. But maybe they did that on purpose. I don't know.
Aren't the Russians themselves claiming that it was an artillery truck that had an accident?
Yeah, and it could have been. I'm not sure I would have claimed that if I were them. That's rather embarrassing, but
Yep.
that happens now and then. Oops.
So, Andrew, we are 21 minutes and 23 seconds into this podcast. Some would say we're balls deep into this episode. What do you have to say about all this?
Hope no nuclear war. That would be the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
The nuclear war would be the best thing?
Not having a nuclear war.
You guys heard it here, folks. Andrew's pro-nuclear war.
I don't know about pro-nuclear war, but I'm all for, like, Mad Max.
I think, I mean, honestly,
you gotta nuke something, right?
if we don't have nuclear war, that is a very distinct possibility.
Screw you guys, my truck is flex fuel, and I can bootleg E85.
Distilling.
I've got rollerblades. I'm good.
To start
I'll be
distilling.
all right.
Make alcohol fuel again, I believe, from Mexico.
Yeah, I did see the tweet about make alcohol fuel again earlier
Granted,
today.
Alcohol is already our
as
fuel.
a fuel is inferior to gasoline.
Well,
You know
okay,
what?
so-
Ethanol is the
when
winter fuel.
when your international supply chain
Yeah.
of fossil fuels is broken down.
So
Hey, when
Andrew,
the feds are chasing you and you have to pour moonshine into your gas tank, and it works. It works.
so Andrew, as far as this explosion goes, what are your thoughts? Like, is it CIA? Is it Russia? Is it Ukraine? Is it an accident? Like, what was your first reaction seeing that video?
Ukrainian and hero.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't on the bridge.
I think it's perfectly plausible. Ukraine found their hero to drive that truck across the bridge. It was headed toward Crimea, from what I
That's
can
why
tell,
I'm saying
that's
CIA,
a little
dude.
odd.
All right,
Could
let's,
have been CIA backed, but there's a lot of people that fanatically dedicated, and let's be honest, there's a lot of us who
Dude,
might
the
think
CIA,
if we felt our families were threatened
CIA's
with
track
slavery.
record of fomenting extremists is undeniable.
let's
The
kind
Middle
of
East, case in point.
let's flip the
I
script.
was going to say, I got two cousins over there right now volunteering from Croatia. One is a medic on the Ukrainian side, and one is right there in the front lines. And as far as I know, they're both alive.
Let's talk about the U.S. for a
Did
second.
they blow him up?
Yeah.
As far as I know, no.
The answer is
As
maybe.
far as you know.
As far as I know, no.
Maybe. All right, let's talk about the U.S. All right, the stock market the last couple of weeks has been insane. I mean, one day it's up 500 points as far as the Dow goes. The next day it's down 800 points. These are clearly indicators before a collapse, right? The drastic swings up and down. Let's talk about what happens next. So, my thought, and from what I've read, as far as the Fed goes, they can continue to push for interest rate increases, which will eventually collapse everything that we know. Right, the stock market. It's going to collapse all of the retirement funds, or they pivot, right, and they do the British. And they go back to quantitative easing. They go back to low interest rates, and that's going to fuel inflation, right?
Let's get one thing straight. Obviously, as you said, interest rates have been climbing for the last few months. The quantitative easing hasn't necessarily stopped. Is open market operations from the Fed are still very much in effect.
They're still buying U.S. debt.
Yes, they haven't rolled them back.
Right.
I'd argue the dollar is
And
dead.
inflation is kind of flatlined, but that doesn't mean
To date.
that doesn't mean it's done. So what tools does the Fed have left besides interest rates? So, and here's obviously the downside of raising the interest rates is the U.S. national debt, what Congress pays. Obviously, a change to the interest rates increases what they have to pay, and it's a greater share, and it's taking away from what they can send directly as stimulus to people and to even their corporate interests. So they are deathly afraid of the rising interest rates. But the only other thing that they could do is the central bank digital currency. It's the new tool.
I'm pretty sure they already did it.
It's the new tool that they want, and they can literally just punch zeros into your bank account and inflate your money at will.
I was on Robinhood the other day, and there's a
They're
USD.
not
USD.
transactable.
It's not transactable.
Yeah, you're frozen.
Oh, okay, but I saw USD crypto, and I was like, oh, that's it. There it is.
That's
Cashless
what-
society.
No, that's
Tether.
it's
I got the notification. New crypto, USDC.
So one of the things that we had talked
that's a
about,
stable coin. That's different from something
Okay.
digital.
one of the things that we had talked about on a previous podcast is the potential for the Federal Reserve to implement kind of a Soviet-style command economy. I think everybody here understands what a command economy is, and the risks that it is. But the question is that something that the Fed could get away with? Because I have a feeling that's one of those things that they will test the waters on.
So there's already a case study for this, and that's World War II.
Right.
Is the United States was absolutely a command and control economy in World War II. And if you look at the geopolitical tensions right now, that is the last tool in their toolbox.
Let's talk a little bit
War.
about command economy, though. So it would, in theory, if we gave the power to the Federal Reserve to control the economy, a command economy basically says the central entity dictates output, right? Inputs and outputs. So if there is one company that is making too many couches, the Federal Reserve could say, we need to withhold your ability to make couches to $2,000 a month. And somebody else could come in and say, the price for couches is too much. Command economy, if the Federal Reserve had that control, they could set the price for a couch, right? So in the communist social basically what happened is it created giant gaps in their ability to fill orders, right? So I think everybody understands that in the Soviet Union, if you wanted a car, right, you put your name into a hat, basically, and it was at least 5 years, if not 10 years, before you got a car.
That's a long time to wait for a casting couch.
You're right, exactly. So
That's a lot of Soviet blue balls. I thought they had red balls, but I guess they were blue.
No. I'm in Soviet Union, and you know what? I get car every Thursday because I have to share it with all my neighbors.
So a command economy is something that I would have never thought the U.S. would even engage in. But if we talk, inflation right now is at officially around 8.5%. Realistically, it's more like 12%. If that gets worse, does the populace say to the Federal Reserve, we'll allow anything as long as you can promise a reduction in inflation?
Okay, it's important. It's very instructive to look at the actual history and the execution of how this worked. And in World War II, the United States government was literally gobbling up every single resource. everything you could imagine, and they were rationing food for the civilian populace, the people still at home.
Food and fuel.
And
Yes,
selling war bonds.
But they were literally buying up every single other resource, and they were setting prices that they said, this is what we will pay for these goods, and we need this much, and they would direct the resources, and they would command certain pricing between them. But it wasn't explicitly saying this is what the price will be. It's like, this is what we will pay for the resource for this.
But I think what is important is the fact that they were able to get away with that
Yes.
because of the money that they were promised from the Allies. So Great Britain, a lot of these countries are saying, give us everything you've got and we will give you all of our gold. So basically
Yes.
it was almost like a swap to say all of the money in the world outside of the Axis powers were being funneled into the United States. And then we turned around and basically used all of our economic ability to fund the war. But it wasn't out of nothing, right? It was because we
And
were
of
being
course,
drenched in foreign money.
Yes, it was foreign money, and of course the Federal Reserve had absolutely everything to do with it, and the U.S. Congress was just signing record deficit after record deficit at the time.
But it would have been much worse had we not been getting all of
Yes.
this foreign
Yes,
funds.
we had tremendous demand for our goods.
So
The U.S. government was, of course, directing every single resource to that effort, and rationing for the civilians. But even with the civilians collecting whatever salary they were getting for their labor, which was tremendous, but civilians couldn't even buy goods that they wanted. And with the rationing and what cash they were able to keep and save was minimal. They couldn't buy what they wanted.
But this
and
is
so the quality of life for the American suffered
right.
during
Quality
the
of
war
life
years.
for the man who had a pair of nylons for a woman went way up. She would do anything for those.
Nylons were, that was the prison cigarettes, basically.
You know, I wore nylons in prison.
And that's a
Of course you did, you fucking weirdo.
I wish I could segue that.
Don't shame him.
Wish I could segue that into something crazy, but I can't. Basically, we did the same thing during COVID, except we did not have the foreign funds coming in,
Yes,
right?
there was
So
absolutely.
we printed the money.
Yes, and there was absolutely, the U.S. government simply had no demand to dictate production. So it's like, we aren't paying for goods and services. We want you to stay home. We want you to stop making and exporting.
Yeah. Hey, it was in the March here when Governor Whitmer shut it down.
Yeah.
And that day at work, they were like, we're sending 2/3 of you home.
Yeah.
I collected my unemployment check, went back to work, and it was fucked.
I'm thankful I was only out of work for 6 weeks. But I didn't get a single cent of stimulus or unemployment until I literally returned to work. The week I returned to work.
Nah,
I
but
finally
when
got
I
paid.
returned to
That's
work,
fucking
all my
bananas.
coworkers were
It
like,
was
it was
such
awesome.
bullshit.
The government's just giving us money.
I was so
and
stressed.
as they're like, I'm like, hey, this is awesome.
I
this is
drained my
great,
savings just to pay my
hey,
bills.
give it
See,
a year. Give it 6 months. Give it a year.
I
They're
worked
giving us this money. It's gonna fuck us in the long run.
I worked in medical, and so luckily I was deemed essential, and so
Same here.
I was able to work that whole time. But I couldn't imagine going 6 weeks without income.
Hey,
That's
4.
crazy.
But I
Either
collected-
way, I couldn't imagine going
Hey,
2 weeks.
I
without
got,
income.
I got approved immediately for unemployment because of the company I worked with. It was Dry Coolers Inc. in Oxford, Michigan. They make heating and cooling systems, and they got in the loophole because some of the companies that we make products for are medical companies. So they could stay open, but because of like the initial lockdown and the social distancing and everything, they're like, we're sending 2/3 of you home. And I was like, whatever, cool. And immediately was approved for my unemployment and all those stimulus checks.
Connor.
So
But when I got back to work, and like my other coworkers that stayed there were like, hey, we got these stimulus checks and we worked this whole time. this is great. And I'm like, it's not that fucking great, guy.
So
let me tell you why.
So we have context as to why did we get here, right? We spent a shit ton of money in a very short amount of time. The Fed just got, the printer goes whir and flooded the economy with money. How does everybody see this playing out, right? Because we have massive inflation. The government is not capable of reducing spending, right? And we can't go too high on the interest because the government can't afford to pay back debt. And the world, or especially the United States, we are a nation that is debt dependent, right? Because our U.S.
currency,
Yes.
our U.S. dollar is being used overseas, and so we can basically push our inflation overseas. And that, I think that's how we got away from the 2008, the QE1, QE2, QE3, QE4 and infinity.
And Ron and shit.
And we didn't see a massive, we all can agree the CPI is totally distorted.
So I had a little bit of a red pill this week in that there are European economists who are starting to just point the finger at the Fed.
No.
They're openly saying the U.S. Federal Reserve caused this global mayhem.
Not the Central Bank of Europe.
Now let's
They're pointing at our
let's
fucking
rewind a
bank.
little bit. If you will remember,
Let's be fair, I was never out of work.
in 2018, you started to see President Trump start to command, "Hey, the Fed needs to lower their interest rates to zero." And guess what? Jerome Powell, the man Trump appointed to run the Fed, he doesn't have to listen to the command of the president.
No.
They don't. But of course, the president
Which
can't
is
apply
supposedly
political pressure.
the theory of the Fed being independent,
yes.
right? It's not a government agency.
Yes.
They claim it is the
Nah,
Federal
but the government-
Reserve.
the president-
It's as federal as FedEx,
The
motherfucker.
president can recall the Fed chair, and of course, the president appoints the Fed chair I forget the exact number of years each term is, but they do that.
I
So
remember
they're
growing up
absolutely
with
political. And when the tiniest
Yeah,
bit of
Ben
political
Bernanke.
pressure from the president, only from the president, by the way, he caved and he lowered interest rates to zero. And in 2019, the Fed ramped up their quantitative easing, because quantitative easing never went away during the Obama years, throughout the entire Great Recession and to the entire time.
Yeah,
Quantitative easing. Now,
Fed is still doing
one
it.
of the biggest tool for quantitative easing is open market operations, where the Federal Reserve literally just buys assets. Now, one of the big ways they do that, it's called overnight lending, and they do loans to Wall Street firms every single day, and they expect to get paid back every single day as well, with interest.
Okay.
Of course, the interest is their rate. And they were buying $1.5 billion. They were making $1.5 billion in overnight loans to Wall Street every single day.
That's and I don't think people quite understand. They think money just falls from the sky, right?
Oh,
because
it did during COVID.
Right, but they don't understand that every dollar the Fed prints is a balance on what we have to pay back. And it's crazy to me that is not better understood. I mean, granted, the corporate media doesn't want people to understand that government spending is taxpayer money.
The debts that you owe are literally just assets for all of the banks, and they leverage that asset to just get more resources from the Federal Reserve, more loans, more bonds, and that they just leverage those even further to create more debt, to keep more people under their thumb.
That's
get
hilarious
those-
because I have so much debt going between debt collector to debt collector.
Yeah, and that mechanism, that weekly interest that that monthly interest that you are paying on your loans, that is keeping the entire system afloat.
Remember, those people who are in the same boat as me right now looking for a house, this is why the house that you were looking for 6 months ago was worth X amount of money, and the house you're looking for now is worth Y amount of money, which is about 2/3 of what X had been. This is why you can't buy that house anymore, and why there's barely anything in your price range anymore.
So how do we see this playing out, right? Because again, the Fed has two avenues, right? They can either continue raising interest rates and completely like destroy the economy, or go the British direction and go backwards, go back to zero interest rates and quantitative easing. My personal opinion, I'm just going to throw this out there, is they are going to side with the banks, and they are going to reverse course. They're going to go back down to a lower interest rate, whether it's zero or something smaller.
They could always go with the nuclear option, global nuclear war.
And if a global war starts again, we will be back to a command and control economy. That may forestall the problem for a little bit, but demand will pent up, and people will not tolerate not being able to afford even basic food, filling up their car. They won't tolerate.
So what happens?
I'm hopping on a boat and going to raid in Canada.
So what happens? All right, so let's say the Fed goes the British direction, right? And says we can't afford to collapse pension funds, yada yada yada.
Can't afford dental care.
Whatever it is.
Dental plan.
Especially British dental
To be
care.
fair, that's an old thing with the water there. Like a long-standing thing with the water.
Don't defend the redcoats, dude.
Fuck the redcoats. Anyhow,
Hey, I got fucked up teeth, man. I can do it.
You don't have British fucked up teeth.
back from the Civil War area, let's go back. So the Fed reverses course and says unemployment is a problem. The economy is strong, so that's going to be their justification to say, hey, we're going to back down interest rates and we're going to continue quantitative easing. I mean, they were going to call it something different because they don't want to say quantitative easing, but it's basically inflationary policy. So what happens? At what point does the U.S. populace, if not state governments, I mean, because I bet you at some point, like a New Hampshire, a Texas, a South Dakota, and inflation gets 10, official inflation gets 10, 11, 12%. What happens when they're like, fuck this? We know why inflation is this bad and we're out. Does that happen? Do you see that happening?
No, the Fed is already over leveraged. I don't think they can continue to do quantitative easing. I don't think there's any indication that they're going to lower interest rates again. Frankly, if you've paid attention to how
even with the IMF just recently said you need to reverse course.
Yes, there's no popular appetite for inflation. No one wants to continue to see inflation. It affects the political and popular support is getting too. No one is going to be able to tolerate that.
So with that, let's change gears a little bit. Let's go into some more like socially spicy issues.
Yeah.
What would you want to say, Connor? Okay.
Go spicy.
Spicy!
All right.
And flavor spiciness.
So, people taking their kids to drag shows, that's fucking crazy, right? Let's talk about that. Andrew, you haven't said anything in like 20 minutes. What are your thoughts on people taking their kids to drag shows?
How many drag shows have you been to recently?
Not going to a drag show recently.
Not a single one?
No, I can't.
What, do you
say
hate
that.
the gays?
You're missing out, dude.
Dude, I've been to at least one.
You haven't allowed a man to give you a lap dance yet?
They're not
I
gays, they're
haven't.
trans.
I mean, it's quite an eye-opening experience going to a venue and a show where when you're walking through the crowd, you get the experience that your girlfriend usually gets when every other guy you pass gropes your ass.
Basically, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I had a friend growing up in Georgia. He's a drag queen now. And I was down in Georgia working, and he was like, hey, I'm doing a drag show. I was like, hey, yeah, fuck it. I'll go.
Did
Down
he tell
in
you to bring
Georgia.
your kids?
I don't have fucking kids.
I just,
Hey, when I was 12, I was hanging out in Hooters, so what the fuck do I know?
Yeah, dude, yeah. I was like 11, 12, hanging out at Hooters too, watching Super Bowls and shit.
I never knew that Hooters was a thing when I was 11 or 12.
No,
Well, of course, you're a pastor's son.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a little
I will
good
say
Christian boy.
I did
Yeah.
know Hooters was a thing, but I
Sheltered.
wasn't allowed to go there. But
rooms are overrated.
The ass
I heard their
groping-
food
sucks.
sucks.
The
It
ass groping
sucks.
club experience to which I refer, I do seem to remember there being an ID check at the door, and I believe the age of
No.
entry was 21.
No.
Usually.
And not to
Seems
mention
more appropriate.
their service sucks. I don't care how cute that server is.
Hey.
I never get worse service when I go to Hooters.
I'm a piece of shit.
I was going into
if my
bars in
waitress has,
Kansas when I was 19 and getting served.
I'm a piece of shit. If my waitress has like a nice ass and nice tits, I don't care how terrible the service is. I don't care if she walks up to me and she's like, "You're fat, you're ugly. I'd never fuck you." I'd be like, "Cool, thanks for the wings."
Here's a cash check
yeah, but
because
then
it's
the
a
wings
gift.
aren't even good.
I don't even care. Look,
The only-
I'm a fat guy.
Yeah.
You think I give a shit about the
I'm a
quality
lot
of food
less
I'm eating?
tolerant.
At least the drinks
I
are
am
cheap.
not tolerant of terrible.
You're
service,
hot and
I'll
you're
tell you
talking to
that.
me. I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
As
So-
a former
Shame,
fat
shame
guy.
on you for those words.
As
You're
far as
dragging us all down.
as far as the libertarian split on this, you have some people saying like this is never acceptable. You have other people saying, which I'm actually part of this camp. I believe that parents have a right to take their kids to drag shows. I have a right to tell them that they're terrible parents.
They're fucked in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's what freaks me out is why do you want to bring kids to shows that much? It's like why do you want to why do you want to be exposed to children so much? I just think no matter how I spin it, even just like drag queen story hour, it's not burlesque, it's not sexual like a show, but it's like why do you want to be in contact?
Well,
with
and
kids?
that raises another question for me: is that what is this doing to the quality of drag? They're certainly diluting the pool because they're trying to cater to the child-appropriate show style, and that's just not what drag's meant to be.
You know what? Okay, so that's actually a really, really good point. And that's a really fucking good point. Okay, so my wife's uncle is gay, and he lives with us. All right. Long story, but whatever. He lives with us. He loves RuPaul's Drag Race, so he watches it all the time.
Yeah.
Now, because of that, I have watched way more of RuPaul's Drag Race than I ever thought I would ever watch my entire life.
You know about fake boobies?
I know about fake boobies. I know about foam boobies.
Yep.
I know about fake ass hips.
I
All
got
right.
a buddy I grew up with that he's into it, and because of what he posts on Facebook, I know all about that shit too.
I know way more about drag than I ever thought I would. And what Dan just said is actually a really good point, that this destroys this ruins the art of drag, because there's a lot of art, there's a lot of art involved in it, because any drag queen out there is a makeup artist, they are a sculptor, they are a fashion.
They make themselves to look as much like a lady as fucking possible.
Yeah. Well, it's way beyond that.
And even that, yeah, they over exaggerate shit. So
Well, yeah, but in an artistic way, and so it kind of ruins the artistic angle of it, because now you have to I don't know, you have to nerf your fucking drag performance to an extent, you know.
Tipper Gore came hard with the parental advisory explicit
But she
content.
did.
Yeah, she did. Tipper Gore back in the early 90s.
If you're getting fucked by Al, of course you're coming hard.
D. Snyder showed up to Congress with his tight blue jeans, and you could see his whole package. Just look it up. You can just see it on YouTube right now.
His speech was legendary. Today.
Yeah. For the
And
freedom
it's
of
like
speech.
you got
yeah.
this guy show up like that, and you just see him just take a crumpled piece of paper out of his pocket and open it, and it's the most elegant speech.
It smells like
And
groupie
he
puss.
just smacks the fuck
But
out of them.
the whole time, he's got the tightest fucking jeans on,
and
and you
he
can
was-
see his whole
he
fucking
was-
junk.
Intelligent, he was principled, he was just unafraid. It was beautiful to see.
What's happened to that in because that was Hollywood back in the 80s.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened to it between the 80s and now?
Hey, dude, do you remember Two Live?
What was that?
Andy?
Clickbait culture is just paid by clicks.
Yeah.
Just everything. It's not gonna, you know.
Andrew and Andy, do you know anything about Two Live Crew?
I don't.
I thought you were going to say two girls, one
I was
cup.
about to say
No,
I'm a white
they're-
kid from Kansas,
No.
but so are you.
No, I am a
band
white
as
kid from
fuck.
Kansas too, but I know about Two Live
before
Crew.
being banned was cool.
Two Live Crew was literally arrested performing on stage in Florida because I think the song was "Hey, we want some pussy," and the cop said, No. And that was at the time of
The
Tipper
Florida
Gore.
cops said that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
And
I
it
bet
was
you if
in-
they said, hey, I want my cousin's pussy, the cops wouldn't have said shit.
in Alabama, they wouldn't have said shit. Florida, on the other
Roll
hand.
Tide.
By the way, if any of you listening are from Florida, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about a different Florida.
But like, Two Live Crew came out of Miami, and they were one of the first rap groups to ever be arrested on stage, and they were the first ones to get the parental advisory, explicit content on their fucking album.
Okay, so it's interesting that you bring that up. Think about that. Think about George Carlin, and then
Fuck shit, piss, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits.
that guy. So think about that. So George Carlin he's a lefty. All right. What the fuck happened between the George Carlin era of lefties and the 2022 lefties?
9/11, motherfucker.
Okay, connect the dots for me. What do you mean by that?
Because look at George Carlin and everything leading up to his last stand-up, where he was old as fuck, and he was like, "Hey, look at everything the government tells you is bullshit, and if you don't believe me, go to Wikipedia and type in Japanese Americans 1942, and you'll find out all about your precious fucking rights."
That's a good point.
And it's also the left was if you'll think back to 2008 and the start of the Great Recession, and you had the
I think George Carlin's last stand-up was 09.
Occupy Wall Street movement, and how widespread and influential it was, and then all of a sudden, corporate media shifts to the woke narratives.
And suddenly, half of those protesters are the enemy.
They took what was a very broad unification of right-wingers, libertarians, and lefties.
Everybody was
who
about
were
ending the Fed and
protesting
arresting the
the
banksters.
central banking establishment and Wall Street.
And now
And they're like,
Bank
no,
of
we
America
can't
has
have-
a
we can't
rainbow
have this
flag
kind of
and Pride Day.
populism and unity.
Well, it's
So they pivoted, and they promoted the interests that would divide people.
that's a good take that Tim Pool's had on the Occupy Wall Street movement. Tim Pool's been a little bit embarrassing recently,
Yeah.
but I mean he said that
Comes and it goes.
yeah. He talks
Remember when
about
he was a
the
lefty?
Occupy Wall Street movement and how the Black Bloc movement came in and started separating everybody by race. And I can't remember any of the woke shit happening before Occupy Wall Street.
Yeah, it was.
I've heard somebody talk about how it's interesting how close the
How close to shit?
fucking Wall Street. What's the name?
Occupy Wall Street.
How close the Occupy
Stand
Wall
at
Street
Wall
and
Street.
the Tea Party movements were. How close
They
they,
were.
came to meeting.
Yeah.
Recognizing what the
No,
real
yeah, it
problems
was really
underneath
weird.
everything. And ironically, as was mentioned, as that was going on, we had all the woke narratives come into the mainstream and all that. It's almost as though those things were coordinated.
That's why I say back in Occupy Wall Street, everybody hated Bank of America. But now that Bank of America has a fucking pride float,
Yep.
love Bank of America.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
So, like, I think Joe Rogan, I can't remember which episode this was, we were just talking about the fact that when a civilization gets to the point of collapse, gender fluidity is a big deal because the extravagancy and the lack of any kind of pushback. So, do you see that this is part and parcel to kind of a collapse of society?
We talked about yesterday a very short point. Somebody brought up Dan Carlin Hardcore History series, and I can't speak much about it because it's been a very long time. But he did a series on.
And his episodes are like
Roman-
5 hours long.
He did it much longer, multi-part series of podcast episodes about the Roman Empire.
Supernova
that
in
was,
the East was fucking great.
very, very great thing. And
Yeah, the Roman ones-
The analogies of the
Well,
fall of the empire.
I'm a pagan, and Ragnarok
undeniable.
is cyclical. And as far as I'm concerned, we're just sitting here, right, in a big battle between the gods and ourselves.
But I think, to your point and to Dan Carlin's point is we get, I think I've actually heard this one on Joe Rogan too, is like a good man becomes complacent because of good times
Good
And
times make
Weak men.
Good, yeah,
men
good
make
times
hard
make
times.
weak
hard
men,
times,
weak men
hard
make hard times.
Good strong men. And
Yeah.
Hey, man,
So-
that's,
strong
that's,
men.
the- that's literally the Roman
good
Empire.
times, yeah.
Get those dialectics out of here.
so we're in kind of that dying era of the good times, right? And because we are so extravagant about the good times, is to the point now where men can become women, men can compete against women in sports. I mean, we're arguing over such superficial bullshit when it comes to like the things that have faced like mankind, like transgenderism is not.
No, it's
I get a white
transgenderism is an
pill.
old fucking thing.
No, I get
It
a
goes
white
back
pill.
to Dionysus and the fucking Romans.
I get a white pill that the real capital of our society is never going away. It will never be. You cannot destroy the human capital of Western society.
At one point,
We- that we
humanity
have-
was only
well,
4,000.
well-
We have the knowledge, we have the know-how, and generally, there's the basis of the principle of property rights ingrained in our society, and a lot of people obviously don't grasp it explicitly.
They're so
but
close.
It's yes, a lot of people
They're
are
so
close, and
close.
we have the know-how.
But like on a
That
larger
will not disappear.
on a
and
larger scale, it bends towards that. Is that what you're saying?
Not explicitly, because people know how to do things. We can revert just back to how markets work.
Don't
If
you?
we simply stood up to the machine and the establishment, and if it collapsed, we would be able to pick up the pieces and move on again.
Don't you think the next generation, though, that have been so heavily indoctrinated in education and universities, in some form of socialism, right? Whether it's capitalism, fascism, I mean, they're all socialistic ideas. But that's the next generation. And I think we're already starting to see it in the workplace, right? Because we have a shit ton of jobs out there, but they're not glorification jobs. They're very intro and beginner level jobs. So let me give a quick example for this. All right. Recently, we had an intern where I worked, and he was working on his master's degree in administration, and he was very excited about finishing that up. And I was like, "So, what's your resume look like?" And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" And I'm like, "So what's your work experience? Because you can't just walk into a high-end executive position." He said, "Well, I was a lifeguard in high school for a summer." And I said, "So that's your work?
So you have no experience.
So that's your work history?" And he said, "Yes." So this is somebody who has been living on student loans, right? So probably for the last 6+ years post graduating from high school, he's never punched a clock in his life outside of, just being a volunteer high school lifeguard. And he expects to graduate college with $120,000 in debt and get a job making $100,000 a year, and that's his expectation. And that was kind of like all of a sudden I was like, well, wow. Well, that explains why we don't have anybody working at McDonald's or Fridays, because they're, instead of working their way through college like most people did back in the day, they're just living on student loans, right? And they don't want to take the job at Fridays. They don't want to work in a factory at nights. They don't want to be a housekeeper at the hospital, even though it builds a resume, right? Because I don't think that that's actually taught or discussed enough about, is like your work history is only going to benefit you in the long term. And that's the kind of that raised a much bigger concern for me. It was like, how many of these kids that are going through college right now, they're just living on student loans, and because they're guaranteed, and they expect to like walk away with a master's degree with $120,000 in debt, and that they just think that they're going to walk into a six-figure job.
Well, that seems to comport with what we've been seeing for this country, in this country for the last 20 or 30 years. Everyone's encouraged to get umpteen $1,000s, if not more, in debt. We saw the housing collapse previously. Wouldn't it follow if this is just the next iteration?
I think that tracks perfectly. It's just it's been promoted just as the way you do things. It's the route you take, and like I look at it as I went to automotive and had good opportunities in that, and still with college just come out with way more than was expected, and just told is that's what you do. Don't worry about it, and it's not sustainable.
It's to pick up on your point of the fact that it's not sustainable. All right, so we have, I think, multiple avenues in the United States that are not sustainable. Whether it is the education track, right, the monetary system, the military-industrial complex. We just have a lot of things that are going on politically, socially, environmentally, economically, all of the above. They are not sustainable, right? So we do talk about the fact that these are going to eventually collapse because we don't have a solid base.
Right.
What does that collapse look like?
I want to just take a step back and look at and just analyze. I just want to say one thing is I got student loans at like in the middle of all this, like a lot of people did, and I went through the FAFSA process. I know what it is, and when you take a FAFSA loan from the government, they make you look at career options, what kind of career you could get from the degree that you were looking into, what the expected salary is, how many people they expect to hire over the next 5 years. You know, when you go into these, take these loans and go into these programs, or you should know unequivocally what you could expect coming out of these student programs. So I don't buy the people who think, who magically don't know what kind of job they can make or get and what kind of money they could make. I don't buy it. These are people who did not do their own due diligence and don't want to accept responsibility for it.
Well, as I said earlier, Connor, why should anyone accept responsibility in a world where who never had to take a day off of work because of the pandemic, still received my check in the mail for free money, which I may or may not have spent on something that goes boom.
That's what I did with all my monies.
Cheers, my point is passed.
Okay, so
Connor made good points.
So I might be totally missing the point that you're making. What does that say about people who go through that process of what you're talking about with FAFSA and then go and get like a gender studies degree?
I think those kind of people were just blinded by their ideology. They were blinded by and the government made it so easy to take that money without thinking about the consequences.
Gender studies in
But
Pakistan.
again, if they went through FAFSA, I know you went through the process because they test you and they had digital checks on it. And Grant, I went through this process between like 2011, 2012, 2013. So the system was still pretty new at that point. So I don't know how many people currently with the student debt that applies to. So
Well,
I can't indict everybody like that.
I only went to college for 1 year before I got expelled. But
Yeah.
I would
Nice.
say it's a
Well-
little bit different tack from
well-
Connor's consideration.
before you go into that, whenever I did my FAFSA stuff, they never asked me about my like career choices or anything like that. Because I went in
That's
for
where
like
I wanted to go. With,
Yeah.
The thing is I was maybe a little earlier than that. I went through from 2004.
how old are you, bro?
And I'm 36.
Jesus Christ.
So I went through that from 2004, and there was none of that. I had good guidance from my parents.
Fuck,
and
am I the
family and
youngest?
Things.
I think you
And I underestimated the hell of it.
31.
28.
And
Yeah.
I tried
Oh
to
my
touch on
God,
one
Connor, you're a
memory
baby.
well.
Connor is
Connor
the
the
baby.
baby.
It's so easy, and it was so encouraged, and it was so incentivized to just be pushed into that, where you're just in crippling debt without any opportunities to do that. And maybe those programs developed to have better guidance to that, but I had none of such things as was spoken to.
I was in a
the
weird
letter
position in
after
high
that.
school, and I already saw all the student loan debts and all of that shit, and was like, nah, dude, I'm
None
not
of
going
that
to
is.
college.
I mean, I was like, oh, I'll make some payments for a couple extra months for milking this out and taking the time in college, but
Fuck, I was
it's-
working
it's
in
not
high school, man.
debilitating, but
It is,
it's
with all that being said, so to this date, I still have some debt outstanding. So all of you taxpayers,
Wow, loser.
Thank you guys for paying off my debt. I think the least I could do is just give you all a blowy.
Hey, it's better than me, man. My debt's to private people.
yeah. I still think that's
Connor Queen Blowy Hour.
It's a propaganda move for like vote for me in the elections. It's
Connor blowing us says?
Yes. I think
Good
we're ready for
propaganda.
election officially, but,
You can really
all this
feel the
stuff-
difference.
But all this student loan stuff is just it's gonna be oversold for what it'll end up being, and it's gonna be just vote for me, and it's gonna increase the problems we have. And it's,
So, kind of a line with that is Biden recently is saying that he is going to, is it not? Or he's going to release people that who have pardon people
simple
with
possession for marijuana.
Oh,
which-
for the marijuana?
Very
Is that what
good.
you're talking about?
Very
the
good.
college?
Connor's got
I
something to say.
receipts,
Zero.
bitch!
He's gonna let all
Connor's
six
got
of
some
them out
shit
of
to
jail.
say.
Does everybody think that
What a hero.
this is going to lead to a decriminalization of marijuana at the federal level?
So,
No,
To the
absolutely.
So this is from the White House. Senior administration official. Yeah, so we know that over 6,500 U.S. citizens from 1992 to 2021 were convicted of simple possession of marijuana under federal law. And as we said, there are thousands of more who were convicted or inaudible from under DC code. And this is highlighted. So there are no individuals currently in federal prison solely for simple possession of marijuana.
So it was a nothing burger.
Again, the
It's a
president
midterm
is
shit,
calling
dude.
on governors to take this action as well because it's important because most of the marijuana possession convictions are happening at the state level.
Now I feel like
It is pure fucking horse shit.
Was that your phone?
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
I got a
Thanks,
screen
fuck, Ray.
protector, bro.
It was a mic drop, but it wasn't a mic.
It was a no, dude.
I
That was a
threw that
phone
shit.
throw. That's even more hardcore
That
than
was
a
some
mic drop.
Eli Manning
So
stuff.
you're
Fuck
saying
yeah.
Connor, it
It
won't be
was-
over
so
until he
you're-
clears their names and gives
White
them
House
back the time
trials.
they've done.
Anybody see the college tryouts thing where he put on the face sculpting shit? We were talking about that earlier. He had put on prosthetics on his face, went to college tryouts. It's a video.
So it was pure virtue
shit.
signaling.
Chad Powers.
They didn't do
Chad Powers.
shit by their
Big fast
own
record.
Yeah.
admission, and they're just begging governors to help them.
Yeah.
While some of the most dedicated governors, and I will give Gretchen Whitmer credit for this, is she pardoned a lot
Yay.
of I think it was something like 16,000 people in Michigan
All right, 3 cheers
for
for
simple
stretching Gretchen.
possession. I'll give it to her.
I'll give her
I'll
one.
give it to her.
I'll give her one.
Oh yeah, I'll really.
What
give
makes
it
her
to for that
stretching?
one, But
Yeah.
I'm curious.
you don't talk about that.
Oh,
Let's keep
That's
it
how
classy
you
here
get an
tonight.
FBI plot thrown around you.
Stretch and Gretchen?
Gretchen,
I'm
you're-
starting to look out the window.
So Connor, what?
Gretchen, hit me up, slide into my DMs. I'm down with that.
You know what? Okay, changing gears again. Gretchen Whitmer, I believe, deserves to be in prison for the rest of her natural life.
Send her to fucking.
She
jail.
is a child of a
Senator-
Republican, and she's only a Democrat to stick it to daddy.
I think she is I think she's a terrorist. I think there are thousands of elderly people whose deaths are solely at her feet. But For like kind of
You're not fucking wrong.
For a lady like in her 40s or 50s, she's kind of hot.
Ah, jinx, motherfucker.
We got a dude that loves that Lord Farquaad face.
Hey.
I would
I'm a
bend
sucker
her over
for dark
her
hair and
desk.
dark eyes too, bro.
I would hike up that blue dress.
Okay, so this is an idea I've had for a while. Nobody's ever thought of this before. All right, what if we kidnap Gretchen Whitmer?
Oh no.
The FBI
I gotta
hates you,
go.
bro.
You fucking fed.
I'm not a Fed. I'm just saying,
associated
what if?
Go.
I remind you, I'm a guest on this podcast, Mr. NSA and FBI agent.
What if the Libertarian Party kidnapped Gretchen Whitmer?
Jesus fucking Christ, we don't have enough undercover feds.
This is clearly
All
going
right,
to go
this
behind
is the
a
part where I pull out my
paywall.
FBI ID. You're all under arrest.
You were saying that was the Fed reason.
So, if we had Gretchen Whitmer tied to a chair right now, what would you do to her?
Connor.
Decline to comment.
I'll introduce her to Barbie.
To Barbie?
Barbie is a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire.
I was thinking that was your dick, but that's...
No, it doesn't have barbed wire on it.
I was thinking about like Mattel brand Barbie doll. I was like, the fuck?
No.
What are you doing?
Baseball bat
Let's
wrapped in
circle
barbed
back
wire.
to
I think we're deleting the rest of this
This
podcast.
is getting to the point of incrimination here, boys. Yeah,
Let's try
this,
it.
Time for me to go to the bathroom.
this is time to hit the dump button.
With that being said, all right, let's change gears yet again.
Why are they calling shit?
In all seriousness, Gretchen Whitmer, you prevented me from having
You
funerals
just
for two
gotta
of my
make. You
grandparents.
gotta edit this
Oh,
episode
hold on,
in
hold
the
on.
most shitty way
Hold on,
possible.
hold on.
So it's painfully obvious that we edited a bunch of shit out.
Hold on.
Pulling that out.
We got to hear what Dan
Gretchen
has to say.
Whitmer, you prevented me from having funerals for two of my grandparents. Fuck you, I will hate you till the day I die. I hate very few people in this world, but I hate you.
Fuck you, Gretchen Whitmer.
Oh, fuck you,
That was
Gretchen
powerful
Whitmer.
as fuck, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, so let's man. God,
Yeah.
Fuck Gretchen Whitmer.
Fuck her.
All right, so let's switch gears again. We got midterms
just
coming
yell
up.
right
We
into
have a presidential election coming up. Every 4 years, they say this is like the most important presidential election. In my
This
opinion,
is the most important presidential election yet.
in my opinion, I feel like this one's a pretty important one. All right, we've had 4 years of Joe Biden. I feel like he's absolutely run this country into the ground. Even worse than Trump did. Even worse than Obama did. Even worse than George Bush did.
I'm
Andrew,
I was gonna say I'm writing in Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
not Dave Smith.
Goddamn
Goddamn traitor!
If 2024 happens and we give it to Dave Smith and Michael Malice is the press secretary, yeah, I'll go for Dave. But as of right now, Dwayne the Rock Johnson.
All right, so Andrew, as the rightful chair of the Michigan Libertarian Party, what would first of all, how do you see the midterms and the presidential election going, and what would you like to see? I know those are kind of two different things.
Same though.
I think Whitmer's gonna wipe the floor. It seems, sadly.
Fuck, Republicans
You
are
mean
back.
think
Peter
so?
Dixon, the shill, can't win?
I don't think so.
No, she's
don't-
got
I'm not
Republicans
smart.
backing her, dude.
There's,
I don't know, man. See, I think
I think there could be a possible chance that there could be a surprise upset, but I'm not optimistic.
And let's be real. Tudor Dixon, the shill, ain't exciting nobody.
Mm-hmm.
That means
So
our girl, Mary Bazuma, is going to take a goodly share of votes that might have gone to her.
well,
I'd fucking
Let's
hope.
be real.
Let me-
No one who is going to vote for Gretchen is going to vote for Mary.
before anybody says anything further, Ben and I love Mary Bazuma.
Yeah.
No. Oh,
She's a sweetheart.
hell. If I could choose any of the three candidates right now, I'd choose Mary every day of the week.
yeah,
Hell yeah.
I love Mary, but Gretchen Whitmer has out fundraised Tudor Dixon like 13-1. Gretchen, she has 26 million. I think she spent 20 million so far.
It's easy to do when you're a fucking criminal.
No, you're not wrong.
Or you want to make daddy jealous.
She broke the fundraising limits in 2021.
But I mean,
And a lot of her
Bloomberg.
money is coming from out of states, and some people would allege from some very powerful people like George Soros, but I don't fucking know that, so I'm not going to say that.
Well, I mean,
Neither here nor there.
Bloomberg
Allegedly.
outspent
Let me
everybody.
finish. Tudor Dixon has raised like $2 million. And the Republican Party isn't giving her any more money.
$2 million.
She spent all of her money, and to the point that the Macomb County affiliate is creating videos for the campaign that are fucking cringy as shit.
Yeah,
They're
I
on
mean,
a shoestring.
I
They
tell
don't
you
have
what.
any money left.
Are
I
you
tell you
bringing
what,
up Donna
Stand a
Brandenburg?
fucking chance.
the
Donna
anti.
Brandenburg. I mean, I hate to say this, but just looking at the social media following, looking at her presence in the Republican primary, she could very well outperform Amy Bazuma. Her election. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the
Yeah.
anti Tudor Dixon videos, I've seen everywhere.
Yeah.
Every time I watch a YouTube video,
YouTube,
it's an anti Tudor
YouTube,
Dixon
Pluto
video.
TV, fucking YouTube.
Yeah.
So
My
the
radio
one
every
thing-
morning at work. I hear the anti-Tudor Dixon.
Yeah.
So the one thing the Republicans got going for them is I don't think we can discount the very real possibility that Gretchen Whitmer burned a lot of her own base with the lockdowns. And I think there is a possibility that there is a silent majority of working class Democrats, people who worked the factory jobs, people who were deemed non-essential during the lockdowns, people who own small businesses.
Like the guy who told
in
Biden
any
you work
other
for me.
circumstance would support the Democrat without question, got fucking burned by Gretchen Whitmer. And unfortunately, I don't think there's anyone with the data to determine what that is. But if you just look at the money,
Follow
and
the
look
money,
at
bro.
how the-
All you gotta
and
do is
look at
follow the money.
polls,
Follow the money. Every time. Science, politics, everything. Follow the money.
Follow the money.
Who benefits the most from this?
The Republicans are the long shot.
Jerry Maguire.
No, Jerry Maguire. Show me the money!
Oh my God! All right, so, okay, so let's start to wrap this up. We've got a tumultuous time ahead of us. All right, I'm so fucking drunk, dude. we got a tumultuous
You're
time ahead of
keeping it
us.
together pretty well.
Rookie.
Starting with Andrew. All right, what I want to know is what's the most hopeful outcome that you have for midterms presidential, like the general future of our country
In the next couple years.
in the next couple of years? All right.
You're going around the room good. Good.
Best case scenario.
Best case scenario and how to achieve that.
Oh Jesus.
It's an extremely simple and specific question.
Pessimistic. I don't know.
I'm glad I'm not first.
Yeah. Best case scenario. I mean, I am looking at the activities of the Libertarian Party, and I'm optimistic about the things that I think we can do and build things up. I hope and pray that the society holds together long enough for us to do those things to the degree that they will make an improvement to help us in the long run. But I have fears in that regard, so I don't know. I'm focusing on the things that we can enact at our level and try to make the best outcome of whatever happens at those other levels, I think. So I don't have a whole lot to say directly to answer your question, but I think it's scary if we look at those things. So I will try to focus on the things that are in my control and do the most that I can possibly do to make it the best outcome of whatever happens in those circumstances.
Works for me. What about you, Connor?
I'm still actually kind of optimistic. I think the Libertarian Party is, we've got some things pulling us back with the infighting and the temper tantrums that people are throwing. And they are compromising our ceiling for success in 2024. But you know what? is I think there's a lot of antipathy among a lot of people. A lot of people are hurt in these recessions. A lot of people are feeling the pain of inflation. People were affected very, very directly by lockdowns. And there's a lot of pain. And Democrats and Republicans nationwide are to blame. And I think there are more and more people who are starting to see it. And it's showing up in things like the lowest levels of trust in the public education system. It's just an example.
Hell yeah.
So I think
Scholar.
there's a tremendous opportunity for a Libertarian Party candidate who can tap into populism, the hate for the system as it exists right now, and the people who have held power for far past their expiration date, who have made a complete mess of things. So it is now the time to have an outsider who, different from President Trump, who talked a big game, but at the end of the day caved to every bit of pressure from the establishment. Now's the time to find something really different. What that actually is remains to be seen.
I think we all have a name in mind.
Dave Smith 2024.
David R. Smith.
Yeah,
So-
boys.
I've been.
By the way, I have
floating
no
the
idea what his
idea
middle
to
initial
people-
is.
I'll close on this. I've been floating the idea to people in Michigan very slowly, but I want to make a very serious run in 2024 for the U.S. Senate.
Fucking
Have
A,
very
dude.
serious
Fucking get it, bro.
statewide campaign. I am going to start planning it right after this.
Change your last name.
I looked into it. It's Michigan law. You need to have your name changed for 5 years before it shows up on a ballot.
Oh,
Oh, that's gay.
Hey, man, my name is Jakob Kelts, and I put Jake
But-
Kelts.
You know what?
That's cool.
I am proud Filipino. I am Connor Nepomuceno. Learn it, know it, live it, breathe it.
Memorize
Get
it, bitch,
good and
because it's gonna
pronounce
be.
it, scrubs.
You know what? In 5 years,
So-
you'll be 25. So sky's the limit.
Okay, boomer. But- so
Listen
I
here, you
just wanna
fucking
say-
child.
closing thoughts is I'm optimistic for the future. There are great opportunities. We just need to rise to the occasion. We need to be loud. We need to be bold. And we need to put in a lot of fucking work. And we are in a great position to change hearts and minds to our cause.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, damn right.
All right, so Jake, same question to you. How do you see the future going? What's the most optimistic future that you see, and how do we achieve that?
As much as I am doom and gloom, I'm a apocalyptimist. Apocalyptimist?
Is that like a type of dinosaur?
No. Apocalypse and optimist. Because there is no fucking hope. But you know what? It doesn't matter if we're here. The planet's going to live on.
It's like an optimistic nihilism type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if we're fucking here. It's going to continue whether we're here or not. And, you know, that's fucking enough.
Well, what's the best case scenario in your mind?
Best
Besides
case scenario,
total annihilation, because I feel like that's what your answer is.
it ain't going to be the EMPs. It's probably going to be the super volcano under Yellowstone.
Oh, okay.
There you go. At least it wasn't him.
All right, Daniel, lift us up.
All right.
Give us a white pill, brother.
I'm going to take this opportunity to show without being paid, which is why I'm poor. Ish. Now, in all seriousness, everybody out there, just live your life to the fullest. I don't think that we're on the precipice of doom. If we are, so be it. But the shilling to which I refer is my friends from back in our late childhood, Justin and Kyle Nazaroff of Phoenix Ammo out of Novi. I was in Boy Scouts with them, Troop 179. We're all Eagle Scouts. It was a great time back then. And it's a great time now. Great ammunition, great principles with those guys. And I think they are a great example of what I think should be the standard for our movement. Independence, preparedness, be prepared. That is the Boy Scout motto. And keep that in mind at all times, and it will serve you well throughout your life. Be prepared, have the right mindset, be fit, have the equipment you need, have the skills you need above all else.
I feel like that was directed at me a little bit.
Sorry.
I hang out with Dan more.
Do be
I didn't mean
be
to laugh.
fit, everyone. This is an important part of it, and if something bad happens, you'll be better for it.
Or learn something useful that the fit people will take care of you.
And at least, or take the Andrew strategy and be useful enough that the fit people will carry the weight for you.
Yeah.
Or, you can just provide the meals for them and sustain them for longer.
All right.
In any case,
As soon as it doesn't work out.
follow these things and whatever may come. Always remember, and those who came before us have passed away before us, it's life. There's no way out alive. So if it comes sooner or if it comes later, the more prepared you are, the better your end will be. Live without regret.
Fuck yeah.
May Odin give you
So
knowledge.
hard right now.
May Loki give you laughter. And may Thor give you strength. Because all of our paths are
It
different.
sounds like Thor has already given Connor strength.
I mean, Thor's the strongest motherfucker.
He's rocking a Thor's hammer right now. All right. Andrew, if you want people to find you or get in contact with you or anything like that, where do you want them to go?
MisesCaucusMI@gmail.com.
Hell yeah. Connor, what about you?
I am your Libertarian National Committee Region 3 alternate. Hit me any ideas or concerns, hit me up at connor.nepomuceno@lp.org.
All right. Jake?
And also,
Oh, wait,
something I mentioned is MisesCaucusMI.com and MisesCaucusMI.com/donate.
All right.
I'm at Kelts for Liberty and Kelts Von Doom.
That's on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Dan Ziemba, the Secretary of the Libertarian Party of Michigan. You can reach me at secretary@michiganlp.org or DZ, that's Delta Zulu 4, the number 4, Liberty @gmail.com.
Fed.
All right. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on TikTok at Andy Coons. That is Koons. If you want to follow me on Twitter, that's where I say a bunch of shit that'll get me kicked off of TikTok. That is at Andy_Coons, Koons. TikTok is where I have my biggest audience. I write a bunch of political skits. And actually, now that I have him on the show, I want to give a huge shout out to Connor Nepomuceno. I would not be where I am on TikTok if it wasn't for him.
You're giving me too much credit.
Fuck you, dude.
I would really like 3 guys without responding to your emails.
No, but you still responded. And he made sure that the facts were spot on and crystal clear. And so being on the show, Connor, I want to give you a huge shout out and a huge thank you. Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it.
Arigato gozaimasu.
Anyway, you can follow us you can join our Facebook page, We Love the State. You can follow us on Instagram at We Love the State.
I share my memes there.
Jake does share memes there. They're great. You can...
Meme jihad.
Well, what am I forgetting? Locals?
Locals, check us out at We Love the State and Locals. We do have a offer right now that if you join the Locals page, you get free shipping on any merch. For me specifically, you can follow me at Picture This 1979 on Instagram and Ben DeJong on Facebook. One thing I do want to mention, and is probably another conversation for another podcast, to talk about our last conversation about looking at positive outlooks, is I'm a big proponent of national divorce. So that would be a great conversation.
Positive.
Hey,
Can I
boys,
make
you got to
one
watch
last
the video I
plug
shared in
here,
the
if I
Mises
may?
Caucus group about the states fighting each other. It's a simulation, but it's totally great.
If I can make one last plug before you get off the air.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to make one.
Next Thursday, October... What day is next Thursday? The 13th?
Fuck if I know, man.
Fuck, it's
Is
the 7th or something now.
13th or
Second week of
14th,
October.
One of those.
I think it's the 13th.
Yeah, I think
Hold
it's
on.
13th.
I want to look up the
Sounds
date.
right.
Just to be sure, 'cause I don't
We're all
know what the fuck
professionals
this
here at
is.
Will
So
of
we
the
are
State.
protesting.
It's the fucking
The
8th.
it is the 13th. The Libertarian Party of Michigan will be protesting the gubernatorial debates hosted by Woods TV in Grand Rapids.
Well,
It's up on
yeah.
our Facebook page at LPMI. for
Why are we
details.
protesting that?
The Woods TV
We're
studio in
protesting
Grand
it because
Rapids.
it's
No,
just
why?
Because they are excluding Mary Bazuma and all third-party candidates.
Fuck
from
those
our state.
guys.
All right, so official
Yeah.
statement from We Love the State podcast. Fuck Wood TV.
They're a
Fuck
bunch
that
of
Wood.
bitches.
Bunch of cunts.
If you ain't down with that, I got fucking 2 words for you.
Wood
Suck it!
Wood TV, more like not good TV.
So that basically wraps up our conversation tonight.
Hey, boys,
Um,
I'm ready to go smoke a joint. See ya.
thank you to everybody
I second the
who
motion.
joined us on the podcast. It's been a lot of fun. Anybody who is interested in getting more information on the Mises Caucus of Michigan, please feel free to give us a shout out, and we will make sure to get you involved. The great thing about the Mises Caucus that I've found specifically is you're going to meet a lot of people that will be lifetime friends, and I don't think that is the same for most political organizations or even all of the Libertarian Party in general. So if you want to have not just a shared purpose and changing hearts and minds, but to grow your friendship base, please feel free to contact us and you can be on our next podcast at our next event.
This literal group of fucking gentlemen is some of the best friends I've ever made.
I feel like I should clarify that. I'm not technically friends with them. I mean, I said I was.
Andy's only here for his knowledge of stuff. So
I never agreed to
that's
be
not
on a
a lot.
podcast, but
Hey, Andy, start
look
doing
at what
yoga.
these guys
Made
have
a
done
soft
to me.
And don't
ending
shave your beard.
4 times now. This is getting awkward.
I know. All right.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.